Hello students, today I am going to start your first chapter of Flamingo, the last lesson. Let me tell you that in your syllabus there are two books, one is Flamingo and Vista, another is Vista. Let me make it very clear that the whole syllabus, all the chapters of these two books are in your syllabus. Okay, so let's start the first lesson, and ironically the first lesson of Flamingo is the last lesson. Okay, the last lesson, this chapter is written by Alphonse Daudet. uh, it's the born the born he was born on 1840, died on 1897. He was a short story writer and a French novelist, and the setup of this story was uh, in 1870 and 1871, when there was war going on in between France and Prussia. Prussia was a country which was at that time Germany, Poland, and some parts of Austria. Okay, these all combined and made one country, that was Prussia. Okay, and that was led by Bismarck. Bismarck was he was a great leader of Prussia at that time. Okay, and at that time he almost captured almost all of the Europe at that time. Okay, and in 1870 and 71, Prussia captured two districts, Alsace and Lorraine of France. Okay, so this story is about one district, Alsace. Okay, and the protagonists of this story are one small boy, one school going small boy, French, and his teacher, Mr. M. Hamel. Okay, so let's begin the story from here. This is about, we can say that this is a kind of Alphonse Daudet autobiography. Okay, so he says that I started for school very late that morning and was in a great dread of a scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. So uh, he was not willing to go to school because he was in fear of his teacher, because he is going to ask some questions on participles, and he had hardly know anything about that participle. Okay, so he was distracted for in some other things, like for a moment. He says that for a moment I thought of away and spending the day out of doors. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods. And in the open field back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. Okay, so the Prussian soldiers were there, and you know that for sometimes, even when I was a student, sometimes I also feel not to go to school and roam here and there. But anyhow, this boy, all these things were tempting him not to go to school. But even then, it was all much more tempting that the rule for participles. But I had the strength to resist. He accumulated the whole strength to resist all such kind of thoughts which were asking him not to go to the school, and hurried off to, and finally he decided to go to school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. So there was one bulletin board over there, a kind of office, maybe some kind of office where there was that bulletin board. He says that for the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. So all kind of bad news. Why he says that from the last 2 years? Because that war was going in between. Okay, France and Prussia. So all such kind of bad news were definitely coming over there. And the lost battles. What kind of news were there? Okay, the lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself without stopping what can be the matter now. And did not stop over there because he was already late for school, but even then he was thinking of that now this time what kind of news would be there. Okay, and he was sure that this must be the bad one. Then as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bub. You will get to your school in plenty of time." So the people who were there, those villagers who were there standing nearby that bulletin board, they asked him, they told him that you have plenty of time, don't be hurry. And what he was thinking, that I thought he was making fun of me because he was already late, and reached M. Hamel's little garden, all out of breath. So, what is this M. Hamel's little garden? Okay, this is the school, and M. Hamel is his teacher. Usually, when a school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But now it was all so still. Okay, this is he is explaining that usually whenever we go to nearby some school, we can hear a lot of noise of children's chanting, and the ruler of the scale, the sound of the scale, ruler of the teacher, and number of other sounds of students. But now this day, everything was so still, so quiet. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, that day everything had to be so quiet as Sunday morning. Okay, and he was thinking, he was kind of afraid while going to his class, and he was thinking that he will quietly go and sit on his chair. But this day was completely silent, like Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places, and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. Everybody was there. All his friends were already there in the class. M. Hamel, he was also there in the class, and with his ruler, and he was walking up and down in the class. And as he was late, so his face was blushed. Okay, and he was frightened. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little French. We were beginning without you." But this day, M. Hamel didn't scold him. Okay, and he politely asked him to go and take his seat. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat. Okay, when he took his long breath, when he was calm at his seat, then he noticed that his teacher, he was in his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap embroidered that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. Okay, so M. Hamel was wearing that dress which he usually wear when there was any kind of function or inspection. Okay, so on this date, but there wasn't any such kind of date today. So why was he wearing such kind of dress? He was thinking of it, and there was some strange. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were always empty. The village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hossur with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides. So all these villagers were also sitting at back benches in the classroom, and that was quite surprisingly for him. And he was thinking of that why these people are sitting today. Everybody looked sad, and everybody was looking sad. And Hauser had brought an old primer. Primer is a primary book, okay, thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. While I was watching, while I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said. So when he was thinking of all these things, so that why today is a different day, why all these villagers are sitting behind, and why Am Hamel is in his best dress. When he was thinking of all such kind of questions, then Am Hamel stood on the chair and said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you." And that is why the name of the chapter is The Last Lesson. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. So these two cities were captured by Germany, okay, that is Prussia, and they are going to make their own language compulsory in these two districts, that is German. So the new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. And he's declared that this is today is your last French lesson. Okay, and he asked everybody, he requested everybody to be very attentive in this class. What a thunderclap these words were to me. Oh, the rest. That was what they had put up at the town hall. And this statement of M. Hamel was like a thunderclap on him. Okay, and now he understood that what was there on that bulletin board and why villagers were standing over there. My last French lesson, and he is thinking. Now he started thinking about it. My last French lesson? Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there. Then, oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons. Now he is regretting why he did not pay attention towards his classes, why he did not learn French language. Now he's regretting when he did not have left any time to learn this language anymore. Forsaking birds' eggs, and he's thinking that he had wasted his time on all these things, or going sliding on the sword. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago. He is saying that my books, which were seeing such a nuisance a while ago, now so heavy to carry. It was, these books were so heavy to carry. My grammar and my history of the science were old friends now that I couldn't give up. Now all the things, all these books, okay, which he never wants to carry. Okay, that is why it seems so heavy for him. Now they seems is it started seeming like his friends, old friends. Why is saying old friends? Because these books are of no use for him anymore. Because from tomorrow onwards, another language is going to start in his school. I couldn't give up, but he is saying that I couldn't give up, and M. Hamel too. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again. Forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Okay, earlier M. Hamel, Mr. Hamel, he was also cranky. The French must not like him. Okay, but now instantly he started liking him. Poor man. It was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. I understood. Now he understood that why he is wearing this fine dress. Why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room, it was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. It was of thanking our master for his 40 faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. Okay, so they were all sitting over there only just to show their respect for their own language, which might not be there anymore, and also to show respect for M. Hamel, who had served this school for more than 40 years. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle all through, very loud and clear, and without one mistake? And this time he made his mind that without any mistake he is going to answer this question. But I got mixed up on the first, but he couldn't able to express even a single word because he had hardly know anything about participle. Holding on to my desk, my heart beating, and not daring to look up, I heard M. Hamel say to me, I won't scold you, little French. I feel bad enough. And his teacher says that I am not going to school anymore. You should feel bad. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, bah, I have plenty of time. I will learn it tomorrow. And this is the same thing we all usually say to ourselves. Yes? Okay. We generally say that we have plenty of time before exams. We say that we have plenty of time, we will learn tomorrow. We will do it tomorrow. Okay? And tomorrow never comes in life. And now you see where we have come out. And this shows that where they have reached now. Now they don't have any time to learn their own language anymore. Ah, that's the great trouble with Alsace. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now those fellows out there will will have the right to say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchman and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language? He says that you can pretend that you are Frenchman, but ironically you can not even write and speak your own language. Then what kind of French people you are? But you are not the worst poor little French. We have all a great deal to reapproach ourselves with. And it says that you are not only responsible for this fault, Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills so as to have a little more money. And I have been a blame also. Have I not often sent you a water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? And this time, M. Hamel also blames uh, right, and M. Hamel also blames not only himself but also their parents. Okay, sometimes their parents also asked their children to work at farm and their own work so that they can earn some extra money. And M. Hamel also blames himself that sometime he also asked them not to come to school because he had to go for fishing. Okay. And then from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful. Okay, wait, where have we gone? Right, language in the world. So the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Because when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. This is very important line. When a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Okay. MML says that no matter if anybody make you slave, but unless or until you have the hold of your own language, it's mean that you all have the unity. That language shows it's a symbol of unity. Okay, so if you are unite, then you can have power and strength to encounter with other people. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy, I think, too, that I had never listened so carefully, and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. Okay, here he already writer questioned on himself also and also on teacher that might be I never listened so much carefully because it seems quite easy now this time when he never understood this language earlier. Now today he's getting everything. Okay, it might be because he was listening it carefully, and it might be also because his teacher is explaining with full patience. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. And today he wants to give everything, whatever the knowledge he has in his mind. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. That day, M. Hamel had new copies for us, written in a beautiful round hand. France Alsace, France Alsace. So on that day, he had bought new copies, on which on those copies France Alsace and France Alsace was written. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the school room, hung from the rod at the top of our desks. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. Once some bit, so everybody was concentrating to learn that language. They were giving their full energy and with 100% concentration. They wants to learn this language. Okay. And how he examined this, because in between one beetle flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them. Not even the littlest one, who walked right on pressing their fish hooks as if that was French. Too. On the roof, the pigeons cooed well, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German? Okay, this is also very important line that he was thinking in between, that will they make them sing in German? Whom? Pigeons. Okay, it's very easy to capture the pigeon, but can make pigeon to speak your own language? It's not possible. Okay, nobody can do this. All right, so it's very much possible to enslave people, but it is not possible to capture his mind. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little fancy. For 40 years he had been there in the same place, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that, only the desks and benches had been worn smooth. The walnut trees in the garden were taller, and the hop vine that he had planted himself twined about the windows to the roof. Okay, there were very little changes. Almost the things were same for the last 40 years. Only there were few changes, which he has explained here. How it must have broken his heart to leave it, but it is very difficult for anybody, after living at one place for such a long time, to leave that place just at once. Poor man, and he is feeling very sorry for his teacher. Poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. And there might be a sister on the room above this class, but he had the, every lesson to the very last. But now French has even courage that he wants to learn everything, whatever his teacher wants to teach this day, today. After the writing, we had a lesson in history, and then the their ba, b. Okay, this is the language, whatever they're chanting. Down there at the back of the room, old Hosser had put on his spectacles and holding his primer in both hands, spelled letters with them. Okay, and even those old people who were sitting at back of the classes, they were also chanting along with these small children. You could see that he too was crying, and these people were also crying. His voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how well I remember it, that last lesson. So, this is the day how he spent in the class, and he says that I can never forget this last lesson. All at once, the church clock struck 12. So, this was the time when they have to stop teaching. Then the Angelus, at the same moment, the trumpets of the Prussians returning from drill sounded under our windows. M. Hamel stood up, very pale, in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. My friend, said he, something, said he, I, but something choked him. He could not go on. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, He wrote as loud as he could, "Vive la France! Long live France!" "Vive la France" means long live France. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall. Leaned, sorry,